Okay, great. All right, well, we can go ahead and get into the exciting part of the program today. We have two speakers talking about vibrant neighborhoods. When we talk about vibrant neighborhoods, we're thinking, you know, programs and initiatives that improve the conditions of neighborhoods, whether that's the aesthetics, the overall quality of life. I think there's a lot of work going on in the community. I think there's a lot of different organizations doing this in different ways. So today we've brought in two speakers tackling neighborhood improvements and vibrant neighborhoods in two pretty different ways, but creative ways nonetheless. So we're excited to hear from Reverend Larry Clark. He's going to talk about the Bluff Street Village Tiny Homes Initiative going on in the neighborhood adjacent to Ottawa Park in Toledo. And then we'll also be hearing from Lindsay Akins with the Arts Commission, who's going to talk about their creative placemaking program. So we'll hear from each speaker for about 20 minutes, and then we'll reserve some time at the end of the hour for some Q&A. So without any hesitation, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Pastor Larry to tell us about Bluff Street Village.
If you can allow me to share the screen, I'll put up a PowerPoint.
Okay. Are you able to do that?
We'll see. Should be able to. It says that you have disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, 1 second.
Need you to enable it.
Yeah. Okay, how about now?
How are we doing? Can you see it?
Yep.
So thank you for the opportunity to share about Bluff Street Village, particularly from the sustainability perspective. I think there's a number of ways that we actually address that through Bluff Street Village. Monroe Street Neighborhood Center is located in Monroe Street United Methodist Church. It is a neighborhood center that for about 20 years now has been working in the neighborhood and really across the city to provide a lot of social service opportunities, Freedom School in the summer for children to enhance their reading, senior exercise classes, a major food pantry. But several years ago, we moved into community development. With the lack of community development corporations and any kind of neighborhood organizations that are very few neighborhood organizations really doing community development, the neighborhood center decided we needed to really move into that area. The neighborhood center is a separate 501c3 from the church, though it is heavily supported by the church. Church provides all the space for the neighborhood center, provides some of the financing for the basic administrative costs of the neighborhood center. So Bluff Street is a street that ran just to the east of the church. It is a street that, like many urban streets, has been essentially abandoned. And so we began to look at Bluff Street and say, well, what could happen on this street? But the larger context was we engaged with the Toledo Design Collective to create a master plan for the Monroe Auburn neighborhood. And so we had a number of meetings where we invited residents of the neighborhood to come and engage in conversation about the neighborhood. We also did a door-to-door survey. And at the end of that, a master plan was developed that was presented to the Plan Commission and ultimately adopted by City Council, so that there is sort of a roadmap now for how we can do development in a neighborhood that has seen a huge amount of disinvestment, lots of houses torn down, lots of vacant lots. Now we've gone in 10 years, went from 50% home ownership down to 40% home ownership. So you can see the path of the neighborhood is losing its stakeholders. So we had a vision of what Bluff Street might look like if we could redevelop it with tiny houses. There's a picture from the corner looking back at the church. So you can see the church is right adjacent to the neighborhood of Bluff Street. First thing we had to do with the first 6 lots that were owned by the church and turned over to the neighborhood center was to remove the blacktop from them. It was a very old parking lot that was in very bad shape. So Bluff Street is parallel to Monroe Street. It runs 1 block. It used to run 2 blocks. The street actually ran behind the church before the church put in a parking lot years ago. And so you can see from this overhead view that Bluff Street parallels Monroe Street. And one end is Ottawa Drive and at the other end is Rosedale. Just off the screen to your right is Auburn, which is a fairly major street. This street actually shows houses on Bluff Street. This satellite view was taken before all those houses were eventually torn down, either because of fire or just because they fell into disrepair. And this is how we envision Bluff Street with houses on it. A very different idea of what an abandoned street could look like. So the objective was to reclaim Bluff Street for housing, to be a part of revitalizing the neighborhood, to provide housing for very low-income people. We believe we can build 20 homes that will be 400 square feet or less, and provide an opportunity for the people who live in these houses to build equity. These are folks that probably never would be able to build equity otherwise. So they will rent the houses for $1 a square foot, and then at the end of the 7 years, the deed is turned over to them and the renter has become a homeowner. This project didn't come out of thin air. We were aware of Cass Community Tiny Homes in Detroit, which our project really is based upon. Cass Community took neighborhood streets that had no houses on them and began building tiny houses on them. So the question is, why build tiny houses? Well, one of the problems with urban lots is that they are no longer big enough to build houses on. Many of the lots are 30-foot wide or 40-foot wide, and they don't meet current building code requirements. So unless, the only way you can build a new house in an urban neighborhood right now, if you're going to build any kind of traditional house, is you have to have 2 lots side by side. Well, that really is sort of a suburban model for housing, it seems to me. When these neighborhoods always had houses on these smaller lots and houses that usually were quite substantial, maybe 1,800 square feet. So one of the advantages of building small houses is they do meet the building code, and you can put one of these houses on a traditional urban lot. Secondly, these houses are very efficient. By their size, the amount of energy that is needed to heat and one of these houses is relatively low. So we believe that they are a real sustainable kind of way of redeveloping an urban neighborhood. So our timeline was, we really began probably in 2018 with beginning to think about how we might develop the project. The pre-development phase, we had architectural drawings, cost estimates, some land acquisition. And then we built our first 2 homes, and we'll see some pictures of them in a minute. And our first 2 residents have moved in. And so we're working on 3 more homes right now. And one of the things we decided early on is we would not do any financing. And the reason for this is that when you finance, then you've got to pay back all that you've put into them, and that the rents that we're going to charge will not support financing. So we have to raise all the money up front to build the houses. So we build the houses as we raise money. The tenants will be low-income singles or couples. Tenants will be screened for suitability. They have to have a steady income of some kind, not to exceed $18,000. However, once they're in the houses, if their income increases beyond $18,000, they can stay there. We don't want to be an impediment for individuals being able to increase their earning potential. Too many programs, rent assistance and other things always have caps on them, and you hit over a certain amount and you get penalized or lose the benefit that you had. And we wanted to make sure that we were creating a model that enabled people to get ahead. The tenants will agree to become members of a tenants council, which we believe will roll over then into a homeowners association when they become homeowners. They also have to agree to give 10 hours community service each month. It's a way to give back to the community, which has essentially paid for their house for them. Tenants will attend workshops that hopefully will give them life skills, home repair management skills, things that they may not have had. Probably many of the future tenants never owned a place before. And it's one thing to be a renter, it's another thing to be a homeowner. The houses are 400 square feet or less. They have complete kitchens, refrigerator, stoves, sinks, cabinets, complete bathroom. They have washer, dryer. They have cathedral ceilings, which actually makes them feel much bigger than the square footage that they have. One of the things also we decided to do from the very beginning is make them barrier-free. So that persons that have disabilities can live in these houses. Or if, as people age, sometimes they become less mobile and things become more difficult. So we wanted to make sure these houses worked. One of the things we became aware of is that many people with disabilities can't find housing, and that actually some folks end up in nursing homes and places they don't need to be because they can't find accessible housing. So we think we will have the first fully accessible street in the Toledo, and hope that that encourages others to do the same. We believe that we're creating community, and one of the things that communities used to have in this neighborhood and most neighborhoods all had nice front porches which people could sit out on. The typical suburban house does not have a front porch, and oftentimes neighbors do not know each other. We want these folks to interact with each other and know each other. And so we wanted to make sure we put front porches on with roofs over them so that people could be outside. The houses are fully furnished and they are all electric. So this needs to be upped. We found that the cost of these houses are more than $50,000. It's closer to $75,000. A lot of that money goes into the ground that nobody ever sees. Sewer taps are very expensive. The foundations are pretty costly. We had engaged students at Bowling Green State University architectural students to have a charrette in which they would design tiny houses. We gave them the specifications, and they came up with a number of different ideas, and we chose an idea of one of the students. Her design became the footprint for the houses that we are building. This is just one of the designs. You can see that there's a large front porch, lots of windows. But we also gave them a private space in the back. And we also created a dedicated space for garbage cans. One of the things we found up in Detroit at the tiny houses, they didn't have a place for the garbage cans, and they sort of ended up any old place, and it didn't look very attractive. So we made sure that we had a place for garbage cans. So there's the footprint of the house with a kitchen, a living area, and a sleeping end with a bathroom. And we gave it 4 different roof lines. So we're using the same footprint, but using 4 different roof lines of houses so that the houses will look different from one another. The student who came up with the design for the house provided us with some ideas of what the interior could look like. This was her ideas. You'll see in a moment how they turned into reality. So this is the first house that was built, and you see Lowe's banner across there. Lowe's has been a major contributor to Bluff Street Village. I'll talk a little bit more about what they're doing currently, but they gave quite a bit of materials to the first 2 houses that we built. But they weren't the only ones. We had a number of corporations that gave materials or in-kind labor along the way. This is the kitchen in progress in the first house. And here are the finished houses as they looked on our open house day. There is actually grass coming in now, which is nice to see. That is the interior of actually the second house. And you can see the kitchen is actually a full-size kitchen in every way. One of the things we made sure of is that the microwave was at a level that somebody in a wheelchair could operate. And you can notice on the right-hand side that the microwave's built into the cabinet on the lower level. And here's our bathroom. We have a stacking washer and dryer in it, a sink that's accessible by wheelchair, and a shower that you can roll into so that there's no block around the bottom that would prevent a wheelchair from entering. The other thing I'd share with you is what I was referring to it with Lowe's. Lowe's has a 100 hometowns project where they gave grants to 100 hometowns across the country. And we applied actually for 2 projects. One was to buy a gas station, which was abandoned many years ago. It's been things over the years, usually car lot or something like that. It's been an eyesore. It's right on the corner of Rosedale and Monroe Street, which is right behind the first 2 houses. And we submitted a proposal to Lowe's to buy the gas station and turn it into a tool lending library. And then we submitted a second proposal for them to pay for a house. Well, they actually funded both of those. So we are in the process of both renovating the gas station and building house number 3. We also have a grant from the city with HUD funds called Home Dollars to build, they'll pay for half of houses 4 and 5. So we have houses 3, 4, and 5 being constructed right now. And the gas station's getting a new roof on it as I speak right now. We are hoping to have that completed by the end of December and have a tool lending library operating in April of next year. And Oh, I should say, we also have a partnership with Penta Career Center. Penta Career Center students are building houses 3, 4, and 5. They've actually built the walls already for houses 3 and 5, and they're sitting in the tool lending library garage right now, waiting for the foundation to be finished up, which we hope will happen soon. One of the things we're running into, COVID really caused lots of problems in supplies and availability, and because everybody was stuck at home, they all did home renovation projects, so they tied up contractors. So those are some of the things we run into in the process of doing this project. Well, I've said enough. I think that gives you an overview, and when it's time for questions and answers, I'll be happy to talk to you about them.
Great. Thank you so much, Pastor Larry. That was great. Yeah, I did see a question come through. We'll wait till the end to answer questions. So thanks again. And with that, I'll hand it over to Lindsay at the Arts Commission.
Excellent. All right, let me get a little screen share. Hopefully that looks good. And you don't see my notes, hopefully. Hi, thanks for having me. I just want to start this off by saying there's so many things that I want to tell you about what we do at the Arts Commission. It was really hard to try and focus in on a few of them. So I'm going to try not to be overwhelming, but happy to talk about all the other things we do at another time if anyone wants. So my name is Lindsay Akins. I'm a creative placemaking manager at the Arts Commission. We're a nonprofit founded in 1959. We provide a lot of creative opportunities for the city of Toledo, as well as manage the public art collection. So I guess I wanted to start off by just telling you what we think a vibrant neighborhood or community looks like. And what our plan is, what we're working towards is building safe and beautiful spaces. So everything is sort of tied back into that. And these sort of 4 pillars right here all sort of work together. It's never just one thing. Resident input is always informing what we're going to do, deciding what space it's going to be taking place in. Because we want to use the arts and culture to connect people to health and human services so that we can address blight, address safety concerns, beautification issues, and connect people back to all the progress, all the things that are taking place in our city as it grows. We also use this as, I guess, a tool to keep people informed to what's going on so that they can take part, feel included. So the way that we decided on these tactics is that we asked everybody if this was the right way to go. And we're always asking that question. What do we do next? Where do we do it? Are we doing this right? It's nice to receive praise, but it's also just as useful and valuable when people are like, we don't like what you're doing. That's not good. And then we sort of change course. So we're always asking for permission to enter spaces. We want to be invited to the table. And we spend a lot of time building trust because, again, this work can't happen without the people in the community. They're the experts. They know their neighborhood best. They know their needs best. We're never going to tell them what that looks like. They're going to tell us. And then we're going to sort of turn that around and turn that into sort of some form of creative expression. So like I said, that's how we designate spaces to focus on. And that's how we kind of form our programming based on what we hear that people, what they want to tackle. So we believe the arts are for everyone. We facilitate the making of art. Sometimes we get to make it, but a lot of times we're empowering others to do it. So art is a part of a vibrant community. I don't know that we could use the word vibrant without, making sure arts was part of that definition. without a creative community, I don't know. I don't know that a community can really thrive. And so we take our jobs very seriously, even though most of the time it is very fun. But we're really aiming to create, I'm going to use the word create a million times. We're trying to create experiences. You can go and look at a piece of art on a wall. We're really trying to bring art to as many people as possible, to make it accessible and to make it feel like a normal part of your, I guess, experience as you're navigating your neighborhood. So we want people to feel connected to public spaces. We want them to have healthier, safer environments, and also celebrate the diversity and history of each neighborhood. Every neighborhood is different. Every probably block is different, and defines that in a different way. So we're just trying to elevate all the different cultures and then find ways to connect and bring them all together and tell kind of one larger story through the arts. So, you know, sometimes you think of murals when we're talking about art or the Arts Commission. That's not typically where we start. It can be a mural. But in the case of the image you're seeing right now, this is a fence, not very inviting, not a very friendly looking space on Adams Street, which is a very it's a cultural epicenter. There's where a lot of creative people hang out. It's, I guess, sort of walkable, but there are some missing teeth, right? So this block right here on Adams was not very nice. And we were trying to promote ways, we were trying to get people to walk around and experience the city with the scavenger hunt. So we knew we had to do something about this space. So we asked an artist who she lives within blocks of this space. Could she yarn bomb, which is what you're seeing, this is a yarn mural. Would she consider putting a piece on this fence? And she jumped at it. And of course we compensated her, but it went beyond putting a piece of art up in this neighborhood. She connected with the lot owner. She maintains that relationship with that person so that, you know, they're cool with it. We wish they would just take down the fence, but we'll get there. But installing this piece of artwork, I think was a really exciting thing for us. And also for the artist, because she has just sort of taken it upon herself to continue to maintain the pieces that are up there. It looks different now than it looks in this picture. She takes it down when it starts to look faded or unraveled, and she puts up new pieces. So she's, that's really really the story of what we're trying to do, is find a way to kind of wiggle arts into the conversation and then elevate an artist so they can feel empowered to sort of take on this space and really take on ownership over their neighborhood and feel proud to be a part of it. And then hopefully inspire that in others. So, you know, other ways that we try and activate spaces are by bringing people together. So the art loop is one way that we do that. This is a really easy way. Art is a really easy way to bring people together, right? Everyone loves food and music. And I guess just talking, gathering, it's really easy to draw people in with food and music. So we're providing creative activities and we're sharing art and we're highlighting local artists, but we're also building connections within neighborhoods. We're sort of we're using art as a tool to kind of trick people into occupying a space and hopefully finding new ways to use it or experience it, and then, and then see where it goes from there. So one thing we did at an art loop, besides look at art or highlight some art, was we created an activity, because we also are always trying to find ways to get input from residents. So folks at this table are writing poems, and you'll see a map in the background. Everyone's drawn to a big, large map. For whatever reason, it works without fail to attract people. But we taught people how to write zip odes. You use your zip code to, it's sort of a haiku, but it helps kind of guide you through creating a poem about the specific place that you live. So here's an example of one, and then we ask people to kind of draw what it was they were trying to convey. And then we're going to collect them, display them in some way, and then share them back out with the community. But it was a really wonderful way to learn what people are appreciating about where they live. Sometimes you hear, what hurts currently, but this was a really positive, sweet one, my favorite one. And then they put a sticker on the big map letting us know where they're coming from. And this is a way more fun way of asking people for feedback than walking around with a paper survey or an iPad, which has value, but this is one way that we're creating and also receiving feedback to inform what we do next. And then hopefully we're finding new artists and new community leaders along the way that we can lift up and then help us do this work. So green space is really super important to neighborhoods, especially in urban settings. Again, we eat, we drink, we sing, we're still in those spaces. So we're just trying to be repetitive to let people know that there are different ways you can experience a space and that a space can sort of care for you. And then hopefully they can take ownership over that space and really sort of defend it. And then help us come up with new ways to program that space and create connections with nearby resources. So we're always just trying to put puzzle pieces together, find the missing links. So, here we just want people to gather. We want them to connect to each other. Here's people at an art loop, eating food, buying art, being loud is sort of like a noisy, loud thing, which, serves a lot of people, but that's not a thing that we can do every day. So we also do, we want to make sure that we're showing up and being consistent in these spaces. So Uptown Green Park was a very underutilized green space within the core of the Uptown neighborhood. So we're just trying to be consistent. We show up every Thursday, offer free outdoor yoga. It has to move inside during the winter, but the key is to be consistent. If 2 people come, that's a success. If 20 people come, that's a mega success. So we just want to demonstrate that there are ways to experience the space in a healthy way. It doesn't mean eating a grilled cheese from the food truck, even though that's awesome. You can also do free yoga, meditate, meet like-minded people, and just feel very welcome to walk through this space when, maybe previously people did not feel that way. And then also probably you'll get a free snack out of the deal. I'm sorry, I was just checking my time. So these connections, this is really the part, right? We don't want to just make art. We don't want to just throw a party. We want to bring people closer to a resource they might need. So, the sort of getting the answers to tough questions, the reward is that we sort of bring the fun, right? How do we ask them what hurts and how to make it suck less, but also not be a Debbie Downer. And so hopefully if we're moving people upward, providing them with something they didn't have before, that is a way that we're intersecting the arts and health. So that's a really big focus of ours. And so because really an arts organization has no business, or you would wonder why an arts organization is trying to address health concerns. And it's because we're good at gathering, we're good at asking hard questions, and we can bring the fun and have that exchange so it's not all so it doesn't always feel negative. And a vibrant neighborhood is a healthy neighborhood, and some people don't have the same kinds of access to quality services as others. And a lot of times it depends on your zip code. So, we're working in neighborhoods. Those are our zip codes. Those are our people. So when we throw an event in Uptown Green, it's not art for art's sake. It's not just to be kind of rowdy. It's because it's located next to the Evide Center, which has a grocery store with healthy food options, you can work there. It's a job opportunity. You can get free GED classes. There's a beautiful teaching kitchen and a financial opportunity center. So we're calling attention to this space that has a big, beautiful mural on it as well. And literally walking people through the front door and handing them over to professionals who know how to address the need that they might have. And then we kind of walk back out to our big art party so we can do it again. So that's just another way that we build trust, activate space. That's like, that's our jam. That's how we define vibrancy, I think, right there. And the more layers we can add on to it to help and serve our community, the better. So this is across the street from the park. I'm really focusing in on this uptown neighborhood because all these pieces are really starting to come together. So sometimes we have to deal with blight. Sometimes someone spray paints the F word on a brick wall. And sometimes the business that's operating on the other side of that wall really likes it because it works with their vibe and the thing they're doing. But also sometimes the F word is prominently displayed on a wall across from a big, beautiful mural we're trying to paint, or it's on the same street as a party we're trying to throw. The art loop happens regularly. So what we do is work with the people who live in that space, one, to help watch over it, two, to say, like, how can we work together to address some of this stuff without making it look too sparkly. But we're really trying to make connections and work with people where they are. We would never just come and paint a wall without asking everybody who could see it from their window, like what they thought. So this is just like one example of some of the stuff that we are also doing. Sometimes we paint a mural and throw a party. Sometimes we're pulling weeds and painting over swear words. And there's a lot of other easy things that we and everyone on this call can do, to sort of address those things. I have a feeling everybody knows what those might be. But what we're trying to do is make a walkable city, so that people can enjoy where they live, feel like they're safe, that it's for them, that it's equitable, and that they really can take ownership over it and feel like something they can care for, so that you're not just standing around and be like, I wonder when someone's going to pick up all this garbage. It's like, we all have to pick up the garbage. And we want people to enjoy those spaces because also we need people to want to show up to our parties. And so all the while we're supporting artists while we're doing this. Without our creative community, we have nothing. And so we're always looking for new fun ways to pay artists to pick their brains about ways to solve for issues. For instance, Natalie Neese helped us with this creative board up. So there's a neighborhood we were working with. Their main thoroughfare was just full of houses that were abandoned and really poorly boarded up. Plywood wasn't cut to size. It didn't look good. It doesn't look good. So we worked with some young people over the summer who had really nothing to do. And they helped paint all of these boards, which we then installed on actually a couple of houses in this neighborhood, so that we were throwing in some color. You couldn't see broken windows anymore. We picked up a bunch of trash and really activated some of the young people in the area, so that they felt that they owned a piece of this, that it was a happy, safe place to be. And then we made friends with the neighbors. So we've done this quite a bit. This is one of my favorite projects. But I mean, eventually this house gets torn down, but in the meantime, it was shining real bright. And there's just some other examples of ways that we're sprinkling art throughout the city through signal box wraps, which was an accessible project. Anybody could do it. You didn't have to be an artist, air quotes, to participate or submit a design. And then you were compensated if your design was chosen. There will be more if you're interested. And young people we're always activating our young people to take part in this, and kind of help learn from the creative professionals in Toledo so that they can grow into those opportunities as well. And then just kind of show people how art creates vibrancy in ways you maybe didn't conceive of before. Those red things right there are bike racks that were installed in front of Cherry Street Mission. The folks using that space didn't have a safe place to lock their bikes up, and they were constantly being stolen. So we paid an artist to weld these bike racks out of reclaimed materials, and then they still stand. They're being used. I love driving by and seeing bikes locked up to them. So that's one way that we're increasing safety and inserting some art in the meantime. All of these things are beautifying our city, right? So we're like trying to tie all these things together. This mural is adjacent to that beautiful Uptown Green Park, where there's local flora and fauna featured, where we host art loops. And then we're showing people, hey, like bad behavior in these spaces won't be tolerated. So please move on. A lot of people live very near to this and they're sick of people trashing their neighborhood. And so this is a way that we're trying to contribute. So there's a lot of ways, I think, to decide what is beauty. But these are the ways that we like to transform our spaces. We're decreasing the blight, we're paying people to help us do it. And we're meeting people along the way to help us decide what's next. We're always wondering what's next and how do we connect this to what's going on in Junction or the East Side. And in the case of this mural right here, it has sister murals that connect to those two neighborhoods I just mentioned. And so finally, I just wanted to tell you about that final way that we're really trying to pull and uplift residents into this conversation is one, that they get to help kind of decide what art goes where. They sit on design review boards, which I think probably some people on this call might know and experience, that design review boards don't often represent fully the neighborhood. So we're really trying to insert get people who live nearby all the stuff we're trying to do so that they can be part of that conversation. They can give the green light, and then that just snowballs into more and more. So we're building leaders, and another way that we are doing that is through our Uplift Uptown grant opportunity. So we can pick up trash, we can board up houses, but at some point, like, we really need others to help us do that. So thanks to our partnership with the ProMedica eBay Neighborhood Promise, this year we were able to approve 10 grants at $1,000 each that residents wrote and decided on their own how to address safety and blight issues in their neighborhood and create a more beautiful, vibrant space to be in, because again, they're the experts. And so this was like a real skill building opportunity. People were able to get a taste of what it's like to, write a grant and go through that process, and then make meaningful connections with people who are trying to do the same thing so that we could be really efficient. So some of the things that are coming in the spring are more murals. We're supporting Bike Rides Matter because that's just taking off. That's such a fun way to activate space and bring people together. Some wayfinding is coming our way, so you know where you are. So we're creating a more walkable downtown. And then just making some improvements to lighting and like trash pickup. So trash is always a part of the conversation for us. So we're really, really excited about this opportunity. We want to see this grow. We're super excited to put funds in the hands of people so that we can get out of their way. We can support them, do what we know how to do best, and then kind of let people sort of take it from there and decide, what their neighborhood's going to look like, what's best for them. So yeah, I could have gone on and on and on. I hope that was okay. But it was, yeah, if you have more questions, happy to answer.
Great. Thank you so much, Lindsay. Yeah, I think the really cool part about both of these projects is they expand our definition of what sustainability is. I think that a lot of times it's easy to talk about some of the environmental issues, but this is really more about, you know, maybe more of the social components of sustainability and just, you know, improving spaces, not only through, you know, environmental projects and green spaces and things like that, but doing other things. And it's just cool to kind of tie it all together. So, because I think sustainability really is about improving quality of life. So yeah, thank you so much to both of you. Yeah, we'll just take some time now to give folks the opportunity to ask any questions that they have. As I mentioned at the beginning, if you have any questions, you can type them directly into the chat box, or just throw a message in the chat box saying you'd like to answer or you'd like to ask the question, and then I will we'll just kind of go through the list and people can ask as they want. So we'll go ahead and we'll see what ended up in the chat box, what has ended up there already. It looks like we have a couple of questions. So the first question is from Yvonne, and I believe it's for Pastor Larry. She wanted to know if the first two houses are occupied.
Yes, first two houses have residents in them. Interestingly, both of them are disabled. One of them is actually legally blind. And so we've learned a few things about how we can meet needs of the two residents that we have now.
Great, thanks. And then we also have a question for Pastor Larry from Margot, and it says, were the homes built with the thought that only one or two people would occupy the space?
Yes, houses that don't have a bedroom, we're limited to by fair housing laws to two people. So they now if they owned the house, they could put as many people as they wanted, but they really are designed for one or two people. And we've been, you know, some folks have raised the question, well, what about families? And well, these really aren't for families. These are pretty much for singles. And there are lots and lots of people that are desiring these houses. We have a backlog of applications. So this is meeting a real need.
Great. All right, well, I'll give folks the opportunity to maybe think of some more questions. I have a question for Lindsay. I'm wondering, how do you guys decide which areas you're gonna work in? Is it just if neighborhood groups come to you, or do you have some kind of strategy that directs how you do that, or kind of how do you decide which spaces you're working in?
Yeah, I resisted the urge to put like 15 maps in here. I love maps. So we serve the central city. So that's the most under-resourced zip codes. Well, that was what was identified as our target zip codes / neighborhoods when we created the Toledo Strategic Plan for Arts and Culture, which is now probably nearing 8 or 9 years old. So we serve all of Toledo, but when we focus in on neighborhoods, we're focusing in on like sort of what some people might just think of as all of downtown, which is really made up of, you know, really like 10 different neighborhoods. So sometimes it's the funding that decides that. But really what we're trying to do is I guess just like beef up and reconnect that downtown that looks a lot different than it did even 5 years ago. So right now we're following that strategic plan. Things might change, but you know, we work with East Side, Junction, North End, Old West End, Owini, Vistula, kind of everybody surrounding that downtown area, like close, you know, and close to the river. Some people kind of have more of a need than others. So if a neighborhood group does come to us with a need, you know, we always try to find a way to support their idea or connect them to somebody else who might be able to. And then normally it's like kismet and something comes along and it all sort of like falls into place. So anybody can feel free to reach out and ask for a resource. And, you know, if we can't help you at that exact moment, we'll find a way to do it in the future.
Great. I have a question for Pastor Larry. So it's pretty obvious how Bluff Street Village serves the folks that end up moving into the house, into the tiny homes. But how do you envision how Bluff Street Village is going to benefit the larger community and the larger neighborhood that it's located in?
Yeah, thanks. We see this as really important, that the neighborhood sees something new, a new development, something positive happening in a neighborhood that hasn't really seen any kind of development for probably 30, 40 years. When we were working on the houses, and I spent a lot of time out at the houses, it would be hard to get work done sometimes because all the neighbors would stop by and they'd start asking you questions. People want to go through the house, and so we wanted to be gracious and answer all their questions and show them the houses. But sometimes it slowed down the work we were trying to get done. Also, buying the gas station and transforming it into something very attractive is huge, because we've got 3 or 4 blocks, maybe 5 blocks of Monroe Street that basically have been abandoned for a number of years now, and we've got to rebuild that corridor of Monroe Street, and we hope that this will lead to some others along the way, improving their properties as well.
Great. All right. Well, last call, if anyone has any questions. I think we've got about 5 more minutes to ask any questions. Obviously, if anybody has any, feel free to email me. I can get those to Pastor Larry or Lindsay. Hearing none, seeing none. All right, well, thank you to the both of you. I really appreciate your time today and hearing about these awesome programs. And also what's cool about both of these is that they're very tangible, they're very visible projects, which are always really, really exciting. When you can kind of see what's going on in the community and that activation of spaces that's really taking place. It's really awesome. It's impactful.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thanks for being a partner in all of this too. I guess I could have talked about how you're wonderful to work with. You are also a partner and expert. So thank you so much for all of this.
Thank you. Okay. Well, while I still have everybody here, we will be doing the Beyond Green lunch series in 2022. Topics to be determined by the folks who attend these. So we'll be looking to get some feedback from everybody on what you'd like to hear about next year. And they will be virtual until further notice, but we will definitely be exploring the option of an in-person event next year, but obviously continuing to monitor the impacts of COVID. So just be on the lookout for more information. Want to thank Pastor Larry and Lindsay again. I guess I should also mention, Lindsay, that the Sustainability Commission loves working with the Arts Commission. We've done some really great work together. I probably could have reciprocated that immediately after you said that. So I do want to thank you and the Arts Commission. But yeah, that's all we have today. If you have any questions about in regards to AIA Toledo, please direct those to Nancy, who's on the call. And I think with that, we'll say have a happy Thanksgiving and a good rest of the year, and we'll see you all next year. Thank you.